low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Hi, my name is Todd Wall, and welcome to Communication Breakthrough, where we believe that intentional communication will create the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your business and in your life. The problem we're going to tackle today is that a business or a person that doesn't aim at anything, well, they don't hit anything. They just meander. They go in this direction, in that direction, this direction, in that direction. And at the end of the day, they go, for some reason, I didn't get anywhere. That's because we must have a clear purpose and objective with everything that we're doing, something with teeth, something that is very clear and aligned with our team. You know, in the 80s and 90s, Stephen Covey came out. He had all these businesses. He led all these businesses in creating their mission statement, and they put their mission statements on the wall. And then these CEOs and leaders felt like, oh, my team is all of a sudden aligned because I have a beautiful mission statement on the wall. But if it's not dictating behavior, then it's just taking up space on the wall. If you can create goals and objectives that actually create intentional movement from your team to your customer, you're going to see the impact and the breakthrough that you're actually looking for. Today, we're bringing in a panel of experts to map that strategy out specifically. How do you develop smart and clear goals and objectives that aren't just pretty on the wall, but dictate behaviors, actions, and outcomes? It's the results that we're actually looking for. So let's map this strategy out together. Stick with us as we talk to our experts, and let's put a plan together that impacts your business. Let's do it together. Here we are. Let's go.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And so if your business doesn't have a clear direction, clear objectives, clear goals that you're aiming at, your team is going to move in a million directions. If your team is moving in a million directions, then you're going to look around and you're going to go, hey, why isn't my company making the progress that I hoped it was? That's the problem. Our companies must have clear objectives, clear goals, because it is your responsibility as the leader to set the light and the direction going forward. Today's first guest is with Make the Call Coaching and John Burt, and he's going to introduce us into not a new system, but actually a new wrinkle on an old system of SMART goals. Many people have heard about SMART goals, but he adds a new acronym on top of it that he's learned that I think really brings this method into focus. So we'll talk about what that is. Let me introduce my guest. John, how are you doing today?
Doing great, sir. Good to be with you, Todd.
John, so you were a referee for football games for years and years and years, and that's the origin of the name of your coaching program, the Make the Call, because it is all about taking control of the moment, and so the game doesn't go in a million directions, just like we don't want our companies to go in a million directions. So I can't wait to get your input on this. So let's talk about the problem. So just like when you were refereeing and you're in the middle of the field, those players want to take control, don't they? Things can go in a million directions, can't they?
100%, Todd. Great analogy here is being an official on a football field. Here in Texas, I don't know if you know it or not, but football is kind of important, and in high school football and everything. So the objective of a high school official is to manage the game. It's not to throw flags. It's not to penalize teams. It's to manage the game. The better the game is managed, the better the game is played. You want your players playing, right? You don't want them standing around while you mark off penalties, stuff like that. Now, you have to do that periodically. But to manage the game, and so we go into, as officials, we go into the game with clear objectives of how we want to control the game, what we're going to do to manage the game so that the players get to play, they get to use their talents and abilities, and it's all within the rules.
I love this analogy because if it's true there, then it's also true in your lawn business. It's also true in your HVAC business that, our team, we want our team and the team members, the players, the heroes to be performing at their optimal level. And like you said, sometimes that means we need to throw a flag, but more than anything, as the leader, the official on the field, our goal is to set what is the objective and how do we get them to move smoothly through that process. So let's talk about that. So what are some of the ways that you've seen, and feel free to step into the SMART goals or why SMART goals, but let's stay within this analogy because we want our team to go for the Super Bowl. We want the trophy. So as an official, let's stay there for a minute. As an official on the field, how do you keep control of that game so that the players can be the players and performing at optimal level?
Wow, great question. So here's the deal, and I'll share a couple of things. I'll pull back the curtain on officiating. Here's one thing that I've noticed that when we get into the playoffs, high school playoffs, the teams that are advancing in the playoffs are the teams where the coaches are coaching the players. They're not yelling at the officials. They're not yelling at their players, but they're coaching their players. If there is a penalty, they want to know, okay, where's the ball going to be snapped from? Because I need to call the next play so that we can advance the ball. Those coaches that coach, so that's the number one observation. The coaches that coach they coach. They don't yell at the officials. They don't yell at their players. They're coaching. They're 2 or 3 plays ahead.
Yeah.
And they're bringing in that.
So let's put a pin in that right now and just talk through that. Those different leadership styles you have. When we translate this into business, you've got the leaders that want to be just authoritarian and they're just the heavy in the room, even yelling at their team members, at their employees, versus you said the ones who really thrive become the coaches. They're making that human connection. Is that a critical factor?
Exactly. So what happens is so during the season, you know, the first game of the season, everybody has a chance, right? And everybody's going to go to the playoffs and win a state championship. But you observe the coaches that have the programs in place and that are coaching. Now, you go to some games and the coaches that are always yelling at their players, they're always yelling at the officials. It's the officials' fault. You cost us that game, all that. That translates into business also. The CEO, the president, the leader of a department or division has got to be coaching all the time. They've got to be out ahead. They have to be 2 or 3 plays ahead of what's going on so that they can lead their team to victory, to the next play. A game's not won on one play. It's won on many plays and advancing the ball down the field, yard by yard, and scoring. And that's how games are won. It applies also in business. The thing is your president, your CEO, your leader, or the leadership in your company has got to have clear goals and objectives, right? If they're not focused, it's not going to happen.
I like what you're saying. It's beginning with that human connection, making sure you're actually engaging with your team, you're coaching, you're leading them through these situational moments, but then you're also several plays ahead as the leader, that you're not getting lost in the moment. You're thinking 3 or 4 steps down the line. So you've worked with obviously teams, but also businesses, because you do both. So how do you teach leaders to stay a couple steps ahead?
Right. Another good question, Todd. So I was working with a company this morning, and he has on his own figured out, he had realized his 4 reasons why they're successful. And so what we talked about is his ad campaign, his marketing, his outreach, his sales all need to focus and have content around his 4 strengths. Okay. But he's got to have a plan to get that out there, to delineate that, to move that forward. And so what are your goals? You back it down from there. You work backwards. What do you want your sales to be? What do they need to be? How do you get to that? How many sales calls? How many phone calls? How many marketing campaigns? What is your reach on that to get to set up your appointments so that you can present? How many appointments does it take? How many closes do you get out of those appointments?
I see what you're saying.
So it's clear.
So once you have the clear goals, then you work backwards for them to if the goals are wider, you're making it more and more and more focused, even down to, let's say the monthly goal is 1, 2, 3, breaking it down to, well, what does that mean you need to do each week? And it really makes things more manageable.
Exactly. So if you want X number of dollars every month, what do you need to do on the 1st of the month to accomplish that by the 30th of the month? What are your steps? And it's going to be clear and focused. Clear goals help you focus on the prize and help you attain the success.
So what's one more thing before we go into commercial break, what's one more thing you've seen on the field that coaches do that lead to success in setting these clear goals and clear objectives?
It's great. So it's communicating. If we have a flag on the play, the coach primarily wants to know who it's a flag on so that he can discipline or straighten that out. Where's the ball going to be snapped from? So if the penalty is a 5-yard penalty, now they're going to snap it from their own 5-yard line. It's going to be a different play than if it's snapping it from their own 20 or whatever. The communication, good coaching staffs have good communications with their coaching staff, who then disseminate the information down to the players. It's fourth down, or it's third down, or it's third down and long. Better get the punt team ready. Better get the punt team ready too, and you're going to be punting out of a hole out of your own end zone. Get them ready. So head coach tells the special teams coach, get the punt team ready. Tell him his back's going to be in, or he's going to be punting from his own end zone. There. So I would say a short answer would be communication. Communicating what needs to happen to attain those goals.
I think we can even break that into two parts. It's not only clear communication from the head coach to the specialty coach to the player to whoever the leader is, a clear line of communication, but you also talked about situational leadership in this situation, because there's even certain ways you can prepare that team for those predictable moments, for 2 minutes left in the game, or like you said, it's punt team, so the punt team needs to be ready. So what are the situations that you can prepare your team for ahead of time? And then how do you keep a clear line of communication so that it's time to trigger that preset behavior?
Very, very good.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back. Stick with us. John's going to walk through these why smart goals. How do you set clear objectives and goals for your business? Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company, the time you spend with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's jump right in with John, because this analogy of the football team is true there. Of the coaches that thrived in the playoffs also thrive in business. It's the same principles of preparing your team there. So let's get even more specific with John on how to set clear objectives. And many people have heard about what SMART goals are, and we'll review that. But he's adding an acronym on the front of that makes it personal to your team. So, John, let me bring you in again here. So, John, first off, many people are aware of what SMART goals are, but give us a quick refresher on SMART goals. And then we're going to go into your acronym on why SMART goals, so we can really bring this home to our actual team members. And the goals just aren't some lofty picture on the wall. They're personal. So tell us, give us a refresher. What are SMART goals?
Okay, right. So the acronym for SMART, a lot of people are very familiar with this. They've heard it. They see the variations of it. But the acronym is specific. Your goals have to be specific. They have to be measurable. You have to be able to measure those goals. Specific means, for an example, I want to lose weight. That's a general. Specific is I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to weigh 182 pounds by May 1st. That's specific. Measurable. Okay, May 1st, I'm going to get on the scales and see if I weigh 182. I can measure myself every day against those. Am I achieving those goals? I can make the adjustments. I need to work out more. Has to be attainable. I want to weigh, for an example, you could say, I want to play NBA basketball. I don't think that I'm going to be able to play NBA basketball. Age, I can't jump. I have a hard time dribbling. It's not an attainable goal for me. Can I shoot, let's say, 80 in golf? Yeah, I can get there with some work. Even probably could do better than that if I worked real hard at it. So that would be an attainable goal. They have to be realistically high. So you don't want to set, I want to weigh 190 pounds by May 1st, and I weigh 192 now. That's not a stretch goal. It's got to be a result. It's got to be something that stretches you, but it has to be attainable. 182, that's what I should weigh. That would be a good weight. That's 15 pounds in a month and a half or whatever. Okay. So that's what it is. So the why SMART, it's got to be time bound. It can't be, I want to lose weight by the end of the year. Yeah, that's time bound, but you need specific dates for the measurement, the attainability of it, and so that you can take. So it's got to have a time factor in there.
Yeah, I like that. And Donald Miller often says, I need to do this by this date so that this can occur. And that's the formula he operates within that. So like the realistic, so sometimes I like how you mentioned the stretch. So like your sales goal for your business, is it attainable, realistic enough to where people are going to be motivated to seek that? But does it stretch enough that even if you didn't get it, you still win? So let's talk about how to make this personal, John. So with the rest of this segment here, this why SMART goals, because we don't want these goals and objectives to just be on the wall and pretty. We want our team members to feel active, just like the team on the field, to where the players can be fully active and be themselves. So talk to me about why SMART goals and how we bring this into the practical level.
Okay. Here's something I discovered many years ago, quite by accident. And then after I discovered it, I started researching it, and the research proved it out. So the WHY acronym is WHY. Okay. The W stands for written goals. They have to be written down. Now, a pen and paper written, not typed. Okay. This is very important. The studies show, I wish I was prepared and could show you, could quote some of the studies. There's something to it. There's something to when you physically write down your goals. You know, back in the 90s and early O's, we all had the daytimer and all that. That was real big. Well, in the early O's, we went to the early 20s. Early 2000s, we went to these online calendars and online stuff. Well, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, the trend has gone back to handwriting those down on a daily basis. That the studies are starting to show that they're more effective when you handwrite physically them down. Now, you can transfer.
It does something to your brain when you handwrite it out.
There is something there. There is something to it that connects to your brain and your memory, and it also generates action.
Okay. So what's the H?
All right. So the H is harmonious. This is a lot like, okay, the harmonious has to be within your capabilities of achieving. I gave the analogy of basketball. You know, I could set a goal of playing in the NBA, but it's not going to work because that's not harmonious with who I am as a person, my physical abilities, in that. So
is it matching your actual team, the people you've actually hired to execute the task? Are these goals harmonious with who they are? Did you hire a bunch of introverts and you're expecting them to be extroverted?
Right. Exactly. That's a great thing. So the key is, and as a leader, John Gordon has the book, The Energy Bus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have a bus. You have employees on there, and first you've got to have the right employees. Second, they've got to be sitting in the right seat.
In the right seat.
You don't want the wrong people on there. They've got to be going in the direction of the bus. They have to be harmonious with going in the direction of the bus. So they have to buy in to the product, the service, where the company's going.
That's a very valid question. Are the people you've hired, are they moving in the same direction as you are? Are you all moving? That's leadership. Are you all moving in the same direction? Are you aware, is your salesperson going in one direction, whereas your fulfillment's moving in another direction, and everybody's just multi-headed monster? So let's move to the why real quick, John. What is the why?
The why is that has to be yours. It has to be yours. It can't be your spouse. So what we're saying here is your boss may put a sales goal in front of you, and that's your sales goal for your company. You've got to make that sales goal yours so that you can accomplish it. Everything else then falls into place.
So, John, let me get your opinion on this. So within my company, we're talking about we've hired great people. Therefore, we want to toss the ball back to them to say, now, how do you plan on executing that plan? Because you're great, what's your plan? And so it makes their execution becomes personal at that stage.
Right, exactly. It goes back to having the right people in the right seats and going in the right direction. You wouldn't give a 300-pound center the job of quarterback because there's not a fit there. Now, he might be able to take a snap and run a little bit, but he can't. He's not as mobile, agile. He certainly couldn't be a receiver. He's best served and serve the team, and the center is one of the most important positions on the team. His physique and his talent and ability is there. So you want him there. His goals are different than the quarterback or the receivers or the linebackers, right? The linebacker's goal is to tackle the quarterback. The center's goal is to keep the linebacker from tackling. Those have to be his goals. And so you apply that in business too, is whenever our quarterly goals is to reach this much production or to serve this many people. Those have got to become part of your goals. They have to be specific enough, measurable, attainable, realistic goals. If you're given an unrealistic goal that's too high I've been given sales goals in the past. And my first thought was the accounting department gave me this goal, and there's no way on God's green earth that we can achieve that. So as a manager or leader, you've got to come to your salesperson and say, here's what we need to achieve. How are we going to get there? Let's establish the goals to get there and have buy-in from your people.
I love that, John. Thank you so much for this insight today, John. Not only the SMART goals, but taking us out of context so we see it really in a practical level. We watch games all the time. If you're a sports fan and you go, oh, they're doing this to be effective. So clear objectives that are based on the role and position that they have. So, John, thank you so much for the perspective. Make the call leadership. Anyone who works with you is going to be absolutely benefit hand over fist from getting this different perspective and seeing things. So thanks again for your time, John.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
All right, everybody, stick with us right after commercial break. We're going to have Justin Proust, an economist. I love talking to economists or talk about how do we make these objectives and these goals applicable to your business. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Hey,
do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I mean, we had a great discussion with John about really this analogy about being on the football field and the coaches who win there and the specific things that they were doing in setting goals, making specific rules for specific team members, and really in beginning to engage them. But now I want to bring in another friend, Justin Proust. He's a consultant, and what I really love, he's a consultant from an economist angle, because I'm a nerd when it comes to economics. I think it's the wheel that turns the world. It's a superpower. And so I love his perspective on this, but his consultancy really focuses on really bringing out the potential of the individual team members. So I want him to weigh in on this. How do we bring these goals and objectives down to the personal level? So let me bring him in now. Justin, how are you doing today?
Todd, I'm doing fantastic. Great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love your perspective every time we get to have a conversation, because, again, economists know the rules that rule the world, yet no one knows these rules. And you apply a lot of those principles in your consultancy, maybe not necessarily to this part. We'll see what comes out in our conversation. But I really want you to weigh in on this topic of these goals and objectives, but how do we bring it into the personal level? Because if we don't get the individual team member engaged, then it's just a pretty photo on the wall or a nice memo that the leader thinks is really going to change the world, but it doesn't do anything. So how do we bring it down to the team member level?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on. Secondly, the way to bring this in and adapt it to real life, because part of it, especially when you are at a senior level of leadership, one of the things you forget is that you're not usually attached to lower level employees, frontline employees. So it may sound great at the top level, but by the time it cascades down, it sounds like jibbly-joosh, right? It just sounds like garbly-goop. It doesn't mean anything. And you're kind of every time every quarter the goals re-roll out. The yearly process starts, and by the time you get the frontline employee, they're going, oh, again. And they're like, here's something else. We've heard this before. So one of the first things you can do is start engaging with your employees with a very simple technique of using the why, right? Why are we doing this? Why are these goals important? Starting at the top level, because a lot of the times it sounds great. Like we talk about safety, quality, delivery, inventory, cost, typically at the top level. And then as they cascade down and you're a frontline employee, let's say you're a cashier. Well, what the heck do you feel relates to you in that position? Well, the first thing you do is you explain to them as a manager what their role in these goals is. Why are we doing this? What is the impact of this to the company? Bringing them into the fold so that they better understand their role within the position, because a lot of the times that gets lost.
I want to put a pin in this first thing. As you walk into this, how you connect the why, you laid out something very specific there. It's not just a memo, but you got to cascade your leaders talking to the individual team members.
100%. That's really key. That's the piece a lot of people forget. It flows through email chains and they're like, well, you got the email, right? Sometimes if you heard that and you kind of go,
yeah, my spam got the email. Yeah. Okay. So good. We cascade down, make sure the managers or the direct person, someone's directly talking to the team member, and you're not just talking to a group of people.
Absolutely.
So the greatest impact comes from the most personal contact.
100%. Yes.
Okay.
And the other piece of this that I want to adapt here that I think is really important is we forget as leaders what that role of leadership is. So as you get further and further removed up the chain, right, from the frontline employee, your role of doing things, quote unquote, changes drastically. You're not necessarily fixing or touching or, selling something. What you're doing is you're being more strategic. And so as you get further up the chain, you lose sight of that sometimes. You think it's so obvious, but on the bottom level, it's not. So the first thing after you've done all that in this process is to then explain to the individual their role in the organization. So reiterating, let's say you go back to the example of a cashier. How can a cashier have a potential on a cost of a company? Well, overtime can be part of it. Looking for leakage, as they call it, or which is so weird. It's stealing, right? When people steal stuff, but the new technical term, in corporate America is leakage, and you're like, is it? But the idea here is making it personal for them so that they understand where they fit in this organization. So if you're looking from a cost perspective, you make the goals personal, right? So after you've explained their role and reminded them what they can do and their impact in the company, the next thing you do is you talk about how do you make this personal for them? Because the goals have cascaded down, and yes, they have to go roll up into a master document, but at the bottom level, we have to start with a personal level. So the next thing I do, step 3 in this process, is talk to individuals about how do they feel they can adapt this goal to their needs. And what you're doing there is you're not telling them what to do, because a lot of the times we think that it's, as a leader, we have to tell people what to do. But most of the time, what we're trying to do as leaders is make the people better. We're trying to get out of their way. We're trying to remove the obstacles. We're trying to remove any barriers in their way and make them more successful. And the best way to do that is to engage them and to get them thinking about this, because the more they feel that they're involved in this process, the more they're going to relate. The more they relate, the better the goal becomes. And the better the goal becomes, the more realistic and achievable it is.
And I want to camp on this a little bit more, but let's do a quick summary, because you said some great stuff here. One, you said the not assuming, so it's the cognitive bias of assumption, not assuming that the other levels are understanding, and then making it personal to them, bringing it down. How does it impact them personally? So, because that cognitive bias of assumption, it can derail the whole process of our goals and objectives.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times have it happened to you, right? When you've got a cascading goal, how many times have you personally rolled your eyes and gone, this again, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So so that step is, how do we personalize it? But then you went one step further. How do you help them set a path forward? And, this comes natural to you and I as coaches, because it's that process of tossing the ball back to them, giving them authority, agency, and trusting that they have the ability to choose an effective path. So what's your suggestion there on how to help them choose and personalize their path?
Yeah. So I think one of the first things, usually one of the best things that I've found to do is share your goals with them and the process that you went through to make them adaptable. Because we just talked about it a second ago, when the goals come down the first time, a lot of the times, first of all, you're slammed, you're busy, your schedule is overloaded, and all of a sudden you're thinking, I have to do this now too. Right. But if you take the time and make it personal and you make it impactful and actually worthwhile, that everything changes internally. And so what I would say is sit down with your employees and then share with them what you did, the process you used. And yes, if it was a struggle, be honest with them and say, look, I have no idea how we're going to impact this goal, but this is the way I interpreted it. And then I spoke with my leader and we worked it all out and kind of flushed it out together. We went through a process of iteration to get there. So I'm willing to do that with you as well.
I think you uncovered an area where you can be really intentional. Is there are hidden objections or hidden barriers that if we don't get that team member to vocalize, they're going to stay a hidden objection or a hidden barrier that's going to hinder everything. They're just going to play the game. So it's uncovering those hidden biases, those hidden objections. Would you say that? How would you? I mean, you really nailed it there. Just being intentional of going to that. I think that's a valid intentional step.
Well, thanks, but I mean, it's not easy, right? I mean, none of this stuff. It sounds easy when we talk about it, but in practice, it's really hard, and you can lose individuals in this process really quickly.
Very quickly.
And so the more focused you are, the more deliberate, because you mentioned something a second ago, I think is so important. If you're just going through the motions and it doesn't mean anything to you, what happens is it percolates through everything, right? And so these aren't the Vegas rules where what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. This percolates throughout the organization. And if you as a leader don't believe it, everyone below you won't believe it. And then it just cascades down as well.
Ooh. So making sure the authenticity and the connection trickles down from top and just goes layer by layer, making sure that there is a legitimate connection at each stage.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I like to do eventually, not right out of the gate, but let's say you're in quarter two, because we're wrapping up quarter one, is I'll share, because a lot of people, especially if you're at a corporate that reports as a K-1 filing, I report that out and share that with the team members. And I walk them through it so that they understand, here's how much money our division made. This is impacting what we did at this level. And then they start understanding it's not this opaque world, because you talked about economics at the beginning of this. It does run the world, and it's helpful. The more we train and teach people that, the more cognizant, the more aware they are of these things, and the more they feel that they can actually impact it.
Yeah. So showing the practical, really taking it down to as practical of a level as you possibly can.
100%. And not just making it practical, but also describing to them, like, look, it may seem weird now that we didn't necessarily have every intention or every goal lined up to do this, but your actions impact these numbers.
Oh, yeah. And showing how personal it goes back to making it personal, that they make an impact. So if they know they make an impact, then they will engage even more. Justin, this has been super, super powerful and informative. I love having you a guest every time I get to. So people can connect you with you on LinkedIn, and anyone who works with your group makes an impact and unlocks that potential of their team members. So thank you so much for being here.
I really appreciate it, Todd. And thank you to the audience. Anyone ever needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Most importantly, again, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, stick with us after this next commercial break. You're going to love how we wrap things up, and we've got to tie a bow on this. We can't just make these lofty goals and objectives. We have to bring it down to the personal level. If our team members are engaged in the goals and objectives, then it's just a memo. What a waste of time is that? Stick with us. Let's tie a bow on this.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
right, everybody, welcome back. We've had some great information so far on setting goals and objectives and really engaging the teams. But it's time for a speed round. And I've brought Ken Jacobs with Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching. And let me bring him in now. Whoop. How you doing, Ken? You doing all right?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Look, we're going to jump right into this.
Jump in.
So, Ken, how do we take these objectives, these beautiful mission statements on the wall, but bring them down to the team level so they feel emotionally engaged with them?
Yeah, here's what I think is most important is that people understand the vision and that they align with it. And most important, they understand their role in achieving the goal, the strategy, or objective. It's not just CEO down or company down. They need to understand their role in achieving it. So you've got to think about that first. And it's just like if you look at the back of an old, your grandfather's or your great grandfather's watch, and you see all those gears, how they all work together. People today want to understand how do they work together and how their roles and their tasks help the organization in general. And if you haven't done that, you're not going to get them on board.
I love that. So it's just really bringing that down to the gear level so that you as a visionary may be high level, but you've got to bring it down to the actual person who's going to implement the vision, the goals, and the objectives.
Absolutely. Because, initially it might be a little bit more important to you as the CEO because you have to.
It always is.
And objectives. But if you're going to get buy-in, they need at any level of an organization, from those right below you to those, at entry level.
So buy-in is the real key. How do you get buy-in?
Well, I think buy-in is so critical. And buy-in, one of the first ways to get buy-in, I always tell leaders, shut up and listen. Not to be rude, but shut up and listen. CEOs, leaders tend to talk a little bit too much. You've got to get your people talking to understand, do they have buy-in? For you to understand, do they understand their roles? For you to understand, do they understand the benefits to them of implementation and execution? I always say WIIFM. It's not some radio station. It's what's in it for me. And if you want to get people on board, you must articulate the what's in it for me for them. I think we speak a little bit too much about the what's in it for the organization. What's in it for me for them?
I love that so much because at the core, and this goes to so many other levels of communication, if we first understand that people, and I say selfish, but our main concern is ourselves across the board. That's the reason if we had the opportunity to not have a job, we wouldn't have a job. So,
I don't think that's selfish at all. Yeah, I don't think that's selfish at all. I think it allows you to, and I don't want to say motivate them. A lot of leaders come to me and say, how do I motivate my team? I say, you can't. They will motivate themselves if you help them understand their roles, if you help them understand what's in it for me, and you can inspire them. You can inspire them with that vision. You can inspire them with your passion. The rest is really up to them.
There's a phrase I say a lot, and it's that clarity creates action. Would you say that comes into play here? Clarity of what their role is, clarity what's in it for them, and just that clarity will create that movement.
There are a couple of C's that I think a CEO has to bring. One is competence. Another is confidence, because people follow confident leaders. But clarity, you just gave me something. I had to do a blog or a video about this. Competence, confidence, communications, creativity, and clarity. Wow, we just got 5 C's together. Thank you.
We were co-creating that 6.
That's so, and that's for our 5-minute speed rounds. We wrapped it up with that 5, even though you said we just added 6. So yes. Ken, thank you so much. I can't wait to have you on the next show.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
All right. So welcome back from the speed round. Ken was fantastic. I love the bringing back this human connection. And so it really, as I reflect on today's episode and I look back at, the perspective of each one of our guests, they all kind of come back to human connection, creating that authentic connection, not just leading your organization, your team with a big, broad stroke, with a big microphone that you expect people to follow immediately. Because the problem we run into is, what if these great goals and objectives we have really just result in just being a fancy memo? That's not going to get us the result that we're looking for. We need that intentional approach, whether it's this perspective like John brought of bringing, like the coach on the field that knows the plays that are coming up. How do I prepare my team for those intentional moments? But more than that, how do I bring these lofty objectives and goals down to the personal level, so that we're really connecting with the team members who make the greatest impact in our organization? How do we connect with them? How does it impact them? And if I can offer a coach approach to this, is even, how do I take this lofty goal, even just a sales goal that's attainable, and really engage this team member into crafting their path to getting there? And if I can offer this coach approach, it's this of tossing the ball back using the Socratic method of saying, what would you do in this situation? How would you handle this situation? Because it goes back to, we hired these team members, employees, whatever you want to call them, because we think they're great. We were excited when we hired them in the first place. We're looking forward to the impact that they were going to be making. Why not empower them? What if that is the real key to all of this? Empowering our team members within their specific roles to be as great as they possibly could, but then aligning that, yes, it requires leadership with that goal and objective you have, and saying, now, how can you shrink the execution gap? So what would you do in this situation to make this more effective, or to apply this goal? And even bringing it down to, if we get this goal, this is how it can impact you. And if it can impact you that way, so what behaviors do you need to do? What are the actions that you need to take as a manager? What manager of your team, how can you lead your team towards this goal? What would be your best way of doing that? Some people would say that's giving up control as the leader. No, because then you can come back in and inspect what you expect. And so you could say that you see what path that they create, and then you can say, can I maybe add one suggestion? Or what if we tweaked that one little part this way? And you bring in those little fine-tuning moments. So now you're not micromanaging. Now you're leading them towards the goals and objectives that you want, that you all want to get to, because now you've got a shared benefit and a shared path. No one wants to be told what to do. We all want to feel powerful. We all want to feel like we're in this job, not just to clock in and clock out, but to have a sense of purpose within that job, that task, that role, that organization. We all want to make an impact in this world. So toss the ball back. how would you do this? How would you get to this end? Offer your suggestions as an inspect what you expect, but create a human connection. Human connection will make your goals and your objectives fly through the moon. We'll see you next time.
This has been a NowMedia Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to